If you are listening to this, you may have noticed that the atmosphere has changed. Not in the sky, not in the news, but in the quiet, unseen spaces of your own living room. For a long time, there was a sense of building pressure, a feeling that you were moving toward a crescendo, waiting for a massive external event to signal that you had finally arrived. You may have expected a trumpet blast, a sudden windfall, or a dramatic exit from your old life. But that is not how reality shifts at this level. The shift didn't explode, it settled. This is the morning after the lock has clicked into place. It is a strange, almost eerie sensation because it lacks the one thing you have become addicted to over the last few years: urgency. You woke up today and perhaps for the first time in a decade, nothing was chasing you. This is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of completion. It is the feeling of a heavy door finally shutting and latching tight against a storm that has been raging for years. The storm may still be blowing outside, but it is no longer blowing through you. For the spiritual seeker, this lack of drama can be confusing. You have been trained by trauma and by the cycles of seeking to associate growth with intensity. You have learned to measure your progress by how much you are crying, how much you are purging, or how much you are fighting to hold your light. But the universe does not reward you for how much pain you can endure. It rewards you for how much stability you can maintain. And so you find yourself here, in this quiet aftermath. You look around at your life, and on the surface, the furniture is the same. The routine is the same. The people may be the same. But the texture of your existence has altered. There is a density to the air now, a solidity that wasn't there before. You are no longer porous. The world cannot just walk into your energy field and take what it wants anymore. This is the sign you have been waiting for. Though it looks nothing like what you expected, the sign is not a feather or a number sequence or a synchronicity. The sign is the absence of the chase. You are no longer running towards something, and you are no longer running away from something. You are simply standing, and in that standing, you might feel a sudden, jarring realization. I am no longer waiting for permission to exist. This feeling, this nothingness that isn't empty, is the sensation of the timeline locking. When a ship leaves the harbor and finally hits the open ocean, the chaotic chopping of the waves against the shore disappears, replaced by a long, slow, rhythmic swell. That is where you are now. You have left the harbor of your old identity, the chopping noise of your old fears, the constant need to explain yourself. The frantic desire to be understood has all faded into the distance. You are in the deep water now. It's settled, and because it's settled, you are safe. But safety, real safety, can feel boring to a nervous system that was built on survival. You might find yourself checking your phone, looking for a problem, scanning your bank account, or replaying old arguments just to see if you can trigger that familiar spike of adrenaline. But the spike doesn't come, or if it does, it fades instantly. This is because the mechanism that kept you in survival mode has been dismantled. The lock is turned, the morning has broken, and nothing is chasing you anymore. You may be asking why the motivation has vanished, why the burning desire to make it happen, to manifest, to force doors open, or to prove your worth has suddenly evaporated. It can feel like apathy, but it is not apathy. Apathy is a lack of caring. This is a lack of resistance. For years, you were pushed by external forces. You were pushed by the fear of not being enough. You were pushed by the pain of rejection. You were pushed by the need to show those who doubted you that they were wrong. This external pressure acted like a crude engine, driving you forward, forcing you to grow, forcing you to expand. It was necessary. Without that pressure, you might never have started this journey. The friction of the world was the grit that polished the diamond. But now, that engine has been cut. The universe has stopped pushing you. This is why the silence feels so loud. The constant background hum of, "I need to fix this," or "I need to get there," has stopped. You are standing in the center of your own life, and nothing is shoving you from behind. This is terrifying for the ego, because the ego only knows how to move when it is being threatened. But your soul does not need threats to move. Your soul moves through resonance, not force. The reason nothing is pushing you is that you have graduated from the phase of initiation to the phase of integration. Initiation requires heat, pressure, and intensity. It requires the fire to burn away the dross. But integration requires cooling. It requires stillness. It requires you to sit in the structure you have built and simply inhabit it. There are no signs right now, because you are no longer lost. You only need a map when you don't know where you are going. You only need a signpost when you are at a crossroads. But you are not at a crossroads anymore. You have already chosen. Even if your mind thinks it hasn't, your energy has already decided the direction. The universe respects that decision by removing the clutter of constant guidance. It is stepping back to let you drive. We must understand the biology of this shift. Your nervous system is coming offline from a years-long state of hypervigilance. When you are in hypervigilance, you perceive pushing as love. You perceive intensity as a connection. Now that the vigilance is dropping, you might feel untethered. You might feel like you are floating in a void. But this is not a void. This is the space where internal authority is born. The internal authority does not scream. It does not panic. It does not need to check the astrology forecast to know if it's a good day to be alive. The internal authority simply knows. It is the quiet voice that says, "I am going this way," without needing to explain why to anyone, not even yourself. The reason nothing is pushing you is that you are now the engine. You are no longer the object being moved. You are the mover. This transition from object to subject, from reactor to creator, is the most difficult part of the awakening process because it feels like stalling. It feels like the wind has died down, but the wind hasn't died. You have simply stopped being a leaf that blows wherever the wind takes it. You have become the tree. And trees do not run, they grow. So, do not mistake this lack of pressure for a lack of progress. Do not mistake this stillness for stagnation. The universe is not ignoring you. It is trusting you. It is waiting for you to take a step, not because you have to, not because you are afraid of what will happen if you don't, but simply because you choose to. With the external pressure gone, a new sensation takes its place. The weight of responsibility. In the past, many of your choices were not really choices at all. They were reactions. You reacted to trauma. You reacted to scarcity. You reacted to someone leaving you or someone hurting you. You moved because you were in pain. That is not freedom. That is reflex. Now, in this phase of stabilization, the reflex is gone. The pain that used to catapult you into action has healed. Or at least, it has scarred over enough that it no longer controls the control panel of your mind. This brings you to a profound and sometimes heavy realization. Whatever happens next is entirely up to me. This weight is not burdensome in the way that trauma is burdensome. It is not a sharp stabbing weight. It is a gravitational weight. It is the weight of a crown or the weight of a heavy winter coat. It grounds you. It makes your movements slower, more deliberate. You will notice this shift in the micro decisions of your day. Should I reach out to this person? Should I accept this invitation? Should I spend money on this thing? In the past, you might have done these things out of a fear of missing out, or a need to please, or a desperate hope that this one thing would be the answer. Now, those motivations are dead. You look at the invitation and you feel nothing. No spark of anxiety, no rush of excitement, just a neutral assessment. Does this fit? This neutrality can be disconcerting. You might worry that you have lost your passion. You might wonder why you don't feel that spark anymore. But what you called spark was often just the friction of your own insecurity rubbing against a new possibility. True alignment is not a spark. It is a click. It is the sound of a key fitting into a lock. It is quiet. It is seamless. Choices now feel heavier because you are aware of their cost. You are aware that every yes is a withdrawal from your energy bank, and you are no longer willing to go into debt. You have become fiercely protective of your peace, not in a defensive way, but in a practical way. You know how much it cost you to get here. You know the price you paid for this stability, and you are not going to spend it on cheap entertainment or dead-end connections. This is why you might find yourself saying no more than ever before, but saying it with less emotion. You don't need to make an excuse. You don't need to lie and say you're busy. You simply decline. The no is a complete sentence. This is the weight of sovereignty. You also feel the weight of consequence. You realize that you are the architect of your reality. This isn't just a spiritual slogan anymore. It is a felt experience. If you eat food that makes you sick, you feel it instantly. If you engage with a toxic person, the drain is immediate and undeniable. The buffer time is gone. Karma, which is simply the law of cause and effect, is instant now. This immediacy is a gift, but it demands total presence. You don't feel pulled anymore. In the old timeline, you felt pulled by destiny, pulled by signs, pulled by others' needs. Now, you stand still. If you move, it is because you generated the movement from your core. You are learning to walk with this new weight. It slows you down, but it also ensures that you never again walk down a path that doesn't belong to you. There is a final, subtle aspect to this locking phase that must be spoken, because it is the one that causes the most doubt. It is the silence of the audience. You have gone through a massive internal transformation. You have died and been reborn a dozen times in the last few years. You have faced shadows that would break most people. You have integrated truths that are ancient and heavy. You feel internally like you are glowing with the power of 1,000 suns. And yet, you walk down the street, and nobody turns their head. You go to work, and nobody comments on your new radiance. You post something profound, and the algorithm ignores it. Your family treats you exactly the same as they did 10 years ago. The world does not react. This lack of external validation is not a failure. It is the final test of the inward sun. It is the universe asking you, who are you doing this for? If you were doing this to be seen, to be applauded, to be recognized as the chosen one or the spiritual master, then this silence will be excruciating. You will feel invisible. You will feel like you are screaming into a void. You will try to become louder, brighter, more dramatic, trying to force the world to look at you. But if you are doing this for alignment, then the silence of the world is a mercy. It means you are no longer performing. This phase is not about being seen. It is about being accurate. It is about the integrity of the structure, regardless of whether anyone is living in it. Think of the roots of a great oak tree. They grow deep into the dark earth, pushing through rock and clay, doing the immense work of stabilizing the tree. No one sees them. No one applauds them. But without them, the tree falls. You are in the root phase now. The work you are doing, stabilizing of your nervous system, the clearing of your lineage, the mastering of your impulses, is underground work. It is invisible to the surface world. The people around you, those who are still asleep, literally cannot perceive the frequency you are operating on. It is like a dog trying to understand algebra. They simply do not have the hardware to process the software you are running. To expect them to validate you is to ask for the impossible. And more than that, it is to give away your power. If you need them to see you in order for your transformation to be real, then you are still a slave to their perception. The lock clicks when you stop checking the mirror. It clicks when you stop looking for the reaction. It clicks when you can sit in a room full of people who misunderstand you, and you feel zero urge to correct them. You don't need to explain your diet, your sleep schedule, your lack of social interest, or your spiritual beliefs. You let them be wrong about you. You let them project their own limitations onto you, and it doesn't touch you. This is the ghost phase of the awakening. You are walking among them, but you are not of them. You are in Nifl, yet you are more solid than you have ever been. You are like a mountain that is shrouded in mist. The mountain does not need the hiker to see it in order to exist. It simply is. When the world doesn't react, it is because you have finally stepped out of the feedback loop. You are no longer broadcasting a signal that says, "Please tell me I'm good." You are broadcasting a signal that says, "I am here." And that signal, being self-contained, does not bounce back. It is absorbed by the earth. It grounds you. This lack of applause is the sound of your freedom. You are free from the need to be a character in anyone else's story. You are the author of your own, and authors do not need the characters to tell them they are writing well. Not tempting. In the days following this lock, you will encounter a sensation that is difficult to describe to anyone who is not in this frequency. You will reach for a familiar comfort, perhaps a distraction, a substance, a specific emotional dynamic, or even a person who used to hold a place in your life, and instead of finding relief, and instead of finding pleasure, you will find something far more disturbing. You will find emptiness. This is not the emptiness of loss. It is the emptiness of a dead battery. It is the hollowness of a husk that has no seed inside. For years, you may have fought against these habits. You battled your desire to text that person. You battled your urge to numb out with food or media. You treated these things as powerful demons that you had to wrestle into submission. You used willpower. You used discipline. You used shame. But now, the war is over, and it didn't end with a battle. It ended with a loss of resonance. This is why the old habits don't feel tempting anymore. They simply feel irrelevant. It is like opening the fridge, looking at food that has gone bad, and closing the door. You don't need willpower to not eat rotten food. You don't need discipline to avoid it. Your body simply rejects it because it recognizes that there is no nutrition there. This shift happens because your identity has stabilized at a frequency that no longer matches the vibration of the habit. Every habit, every addiction, and every toxic loop serves a specific function. It regulates a specific level of pain or dysregulation in the nervous system. The habit was a coping mechanism for a version of you that was hurting, lonely, or afraid. But that version of you has died. The ghost hunger you might feel is just a memory trace in the brain, an echo of a need that no longer exists. You might pick up the phone to scroll, and within 3 seconds, you feel a physical repulsion in your hand. You might try to engage in gossip, and your throat feels tight. You might try to explain yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, and you feel your energy drain so fast it makes you dizzy. This is your biology catching up to your spirit. Your body is now rejecting what your soul outgrew months ago. The emptiness you feel when you look at your old life is actually a profound protection. The universe has deactivated the charge. In the past, those things glittered. They promised relief. They promised a connection. Now, they look like what they are: gray, flat, and lifeless. You are not being punished with boredom. You are being liberated from illusion. When the glamour fades, you see the thing for what it is. And when you see it for what it is, a drain, a distraction, a leak, you don't have to try to stop doing it. You simply stop. This lack of temptation is the ultimate sign of healing. Healing is not fighting the darkness. Healing is the moment the darkness becomes uninteresting. You would rather stare at a blank wall than engage in drama. You would rather sit in silence than participate in a conversation that lacks depth. You have lost your taste for ash, and once you lose the taste for ash, you can finally begin to taste the real nourishment of your own presence. As the old habits fall away, a new architecture begins to reveal itself. This is the new standard. It is not a rule book you have to memorize. It is a physiological intolerance for misalignment. In the previous phase, you might have compromised. You might have said yes when you meant no because you wanted to keep the peace. You might have stayed in environments that felt off because you didn't want to be difficult. You might have lowered your light to make others comfortable. That option has been removed. The new standard is ruthless, but it is not cruel. It is simply precise. It demands that your outer reality matches your inner reality. If there is a discrepancy, if you are thinking one thing but saying another, or feeling one thing but doing another, the friction will be unbearable. You will feel physically ill. You will feel anxiety spike, not because you are afraid, but because your system is alerting you to a breach in integrity. This phase is about replacing intensity with peace. For a long time, you may have confused the two. You thought love had to be intense to be real. You thought work had to be exhausting to be valuable. You thought spirituality had to be dramatic to be profound. But intensity is often just a sign of instability. A flickering light is intense. A laser is steady. You are becoming the laser. You will find yourself valuing precision over passion. Passion rises and falls. It is subject to the weather of emotions. Precision holds. You want interactions that are clean. You want communication that is direct. You want commitments that are kept. You are no longer impressed by big words or big promises. You look at the track record. You look at the consistency. You look at the energy. This standard acts as a high-level filtration system for your life. It filters out people who want access to you but are not willing to meet you at your level of depth. It filters out opportunities that look shiny but are structurally unsound. It filters out the noise, and because of this filtration, your circle may shrink. It may become very small. In the silence of January, you may look around and see only 1 or 2 people, or perhaps no one at all. Do not panic. This contraction is necessary. You are condensing. You are becoming potent. The new standard also changes how you navigate conflict. You no longer engage in battles to prove your point. You realize that defending your position feels pointless. You understand that if you have to explain your humanity to someone, you are already in the wrong room. You stop over-explaining. You stop justifying. You stop auditioning. Instead, you embody. You walk into a room and you bring your atmosphere with you. You do not adjust your atmosphere to the room. The room adjusts to you, or it ejects you. Either way, you remain safe. This is the shift from seeking wisdom to living wisely. You are no longer the student raising your hand, asking if you got the answer right. You are the one living the answer. You are the evidence. And evidence does not need to argue its case. It just sits there, undeniable, waiting to be observed by those with eyes to see. We arrive now at the final locking mechanism, the seal. Human beings love ceremonies. We love graduations, weddings, ribbons, and finish lines. We want a moment where we can say, look, I did it. I've changed. We want the external world to witness our transformation and stamp our passport. But the most profound spiritual shifts happen in the dark, without an audience, and without a ceremony. This shift, the one that has happened to you, is a seal without ceremony. It is like the setting of concrete. It starts as a liquid, chaotic and malleable. And then, slowly, quietly, over hours of stillness, it hardens. There is no moment where the concrete shouts, I am hard now. It just becomes rock. You are the rock. There will be no declaration from the sky. No one is going to come and give you a diploma for surviving the dark night of the soul. No one is going to pin a medal on you for breaking the generational curse. You have to be the one to seal it. You seal it by accepting that this is who you are now. You accept that you can never go back to being the person who begged for love. You can never go back to being the person who didn't know their own power. You can never go back to sleep. The bridge is burned, not out of anger, but out of necessity. This lack of ceremony is the final test of your sovereignty. Can you validate yourself? Can you look in the mirror, see the weary but steady eyes staring back at you, and say, I know what I survived. I know who I have become. That is enough. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is confirmation. The quietness of this time is the universe confirming that the work is done. You don't need to keep digging. You don't need to keep processing. You don't need to keep healing the same wound for the 1000th time. At some point, you have to let the scab fall off and look at the scar. The scar is not a wound. It is healed skin. It is stronger than the skin that was there before. So, how do you live now? You live simply. You drink your water. You do your work. You love the people who can receive your love. You sleep when you are tired. You speak when you have something to say. It sounds ordinary. It sounds mundane. But to be fully present in the ordinary, without the need for drama to make you feel alive, that is the highest form of mastery. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the absence of wasted movement. You are efficient now. You are aligned. The gate is locked. The past is outside. You are inside. And in this space, you are finally free to build something that lasts. Nothing needs to happen for this to be real. No text needs to come. No money needs to drop. No apology needs to be heard. Those are external movements. The reality is internal. The reality is the steadiness of your own breath. What matters is that you are steady inside yourself now. The storm is over. The lock is turned. You are here, and you are ready.